It is another weekend of binge watch playlist of chair shot reality, your number one procrastination tool on the internet behind internet porn. It is Josh Eisenberg down in sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I am Justin LeBar in Pittsburgh, PA. And Josh, we're here on Wrestling Inc. every single week, and there's a lot of different rumors and such to talk about. The one we're going to talk about here in this segment coming from Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet. And, Ryan's got a pretty good bit of credibility, and some of the other factors based upon how WWE edited the video, based upon how this guy was booked at Backlash. I tend to give it some validity, so we're going to talk about it. And Ryan's report says that Big Cass is in some hot water with WWE officials and Vince McMahon specifically because he asked, and they told him explicitly not to do it, to not do anything more than the big boot to the little person, Daniel Bryan. But in fact, on the SmackDown before Backlash, he hits the big boot and then rains down some ground and pound shots on the little person, and they did not want that. And supposedly he's in hot water, which would be reflected by the way he lost to Daniel Bryan a few days later. So what are your thoughts? Do you think this is true, and how do you react to this?
I think it is true. You see how he was booked at Backlash. It was surprising being 5 or 6 rows from the ring, seeing him completely dominate, and then him quickly tap out to Daniel Bryan's yes lock. That was the most surprising thing, I think, of the night for me, because most people expected, Big Cass to win. Daniel Bryan's at this point, even though he has returned, if he suffers a loss here and there, it's not that big of a deal, especially against somebody who's almost over a foot taller than him and 70 pounds bigger than him. So it's not unrealistic to see Daniel Bryan lose. In fact, he's probably the underdog. What's more surprising to me is we saw none of Big Cass on SmackDown Tuesday night. That tells me that there is something going on, and obviously Ryan has some very credible sources. The editing of the video, I thought the little person beatdown was very aggressive. I didn't think you needed that extra aggression from Big Cass after the big boot. But at the same time, I understand what Big Cass wanted to do. It's all about getting heat, and in a world where heels are so hard to find, where they're just generally booed, he wanted to get over the top and do something that would be memorable. It's not going to be memorable. It didn't really work out that way. But I can understand what Big Cass wanted to do. But if Vince McMahon is telling you not to do something, Justin, I sure as hell am not going to go around his back and do something, especially on live television.
Well, Josh, you say that. You say if Vince tells you not to do something, don't go out and do it. And sure, there's a certain logic there. He's the boss. But I'm going to be critical of WWE here. If this was true, and I do think this report is true, it is very hypocritical. It's very confusing. We've seen Vince McMahon on Stone Cold's podcast, talk about guys just need to go out and grab the brass ring. And we've heard Jim Ross and countless others who are veterans, who have been around the creative side and the talent side for years. Yeah. And they always get asked the question, what's it going to take to create another megastar, another Stone Cold, another John Cena? And you constantly hear from those who are very qualified to speak on this say, guys these days are complacent. They just pick up a paycheck, or they walk on eggshells. They're afraid to try things. They're afraid to go out and just ask for permission later. And that's essentially, Cass does try to ask for permission. He has a feeling that, he wants to get extra heat. It's his first match back after being out for so long. Heels oftentimes get cheered just because that's the wacky live audiences we have. So it's almost like him going out there saying, you know what, I might get yelled at, but I'm going to show them this is the right call to do. A little bit extra, and then he gets this for it. It sends mixed messages, and to the point of, and why didn't they want him to do the extra stuff after the boot? Is it they're worried that he's going to look too much like a bully? Well, he already gave the big boot to the little guy, so you're already being a bully. So you might as well just commit to it at this point. I don't understand this, and if it's true, and I do believe this report's true, I disagree, and this kind of upsets me.
Well, and I do think that the bully thing is something that is, you have a bullying storyline. You have feuds that are based on bullying. The whole product is a bully versus a good guy. So I agree with you on the whole. I hope this isn't a bullying thing. But, I feel whenever Vince tells you something creative is obviously sternly saying don't do something, there's something that we don't know about that made that happen. So for whatever reason, maybe it was unsafe for the little guy, as you called him, and I don't know why that makes you laugh so much.
I think we're supposed to say little guy and not the M word.
What about the little man? How's he? He's a man, the big dog. Let's be ironic here. The big dog,
Now you're just slapping him in the face.
I'm actually probably just kicking him in the face. But anyway, so I think at the end of the day, whenever you see Big Cass come back from this 1 week, or not even 1 week, this 6 or 7 day hiatus, whatever it is, I don't think he loses his place in line, but I think that's a stern slap on the wrist saying, okay, you can do what we tell you to do. And many people are going to still bitch and complain, oh, they follow the script so much, they want to see this. But at the end of the day, I mean, if your boss tells you something you can't do and you go out and completely do exactly the opposite of what he's saying to do, I mean, you got to do something about it. I just hated the fact that Big Cass lost at Backlash. And if that's the reason, that's stupid, because Big Cass needs so much credibility right now. Can you, like I said earlier, before, can you remember a Big Cass good match? Can you remember a big win in Cass's career? No, he's never won the Intercontinental, U.S., or any singles championships. He's never won the tag team championships. So he needed a win like this. So they could have done themselves their own injustice if this was the reason that Big Cass lost.
Well, I will acknowledge you said something that's valid. You know, there are always, and I preach this regularly, that there are always things that we don't know about. There's factors that people don't know about that play into things before we get judgmental on the internet. And so I will acknowledge, yes, maybe the plan going into Backlash prior to that segment was, Cass, you are going to win, and we're gonna have you beat Daniel Bryan with a couple sequences of big boots. You know, so maybe they just wanted the big boot, just a little guy and nothing else, just to kind of like set up the magnitude of the boot. So, I mean, maybe there are things like that, and maybe that makes his disobedience, that much more offensive, because he was messing away from what was going to be continuity. But if that's the case, tell the guy that. I don't know. I know what you mean. It's frustrating.
It doesn't sit well with your boy. Big Cass is your boy, Justin.
It doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with me.
I understand.
Doesn't sit. Your boy. No, it doesn't sit well with me. No, I don't care. I don't care if it's Cass or if this report was about
Titus Worldwide.
I don't know. I'm trying to think like. I'm trying to think of something, just like Cesaro or somebody. Anybody. Yeah. It's like, let the guy, especially if it's somebody who's been out for 8 months.
Give them some creative freedom to do what they need to do.
If it's anybody who's been out for 8 months and being thrusted back into a good opponent, like if they want to go an extra mile to get heat, like I don't know, whatever.
I know. I understand, Laura.
Binge watch on Wrestling Inc. Josh Eisenberg 4 on Twitter, at Justin LaBar. Let us know what you think, yay or nay, on the Cass story. We got more to come. We're going to talk about Daniel Bryan. So he ends up beating Big Cass, but ends up losing to Rusev 2 days later. We'll talk about that. Plus, we'll talk about everybody's favorite, Roman Reigns, and where we're going with the next booking chapter of The Big Dog.